Hey there, kiddos, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, hoping that you are having a great day, and in today's video, I'm going to be sitting back in my very squeaky chair, relaxing and having a little conversation with all of you guys about yet another dead trading card game. This one in the form of a viewer request. Viewer Patty Yankee, interesting name, has asked, "Hey Uncle Frank, would you mind covering the World of Warcraft TCG?" And yeah, this is a pretty good dead card game to cover. One of the better ones, in fact, because I think this is perhaps the best example of an out-of-print trading card game that still has a fairly active secondary market, and with good reason, too. But I suppose we'll get to that in just a bit. For now, let's talk about the game itself now. First thing to note, this is a licensed TCG based off of the World of Warcraft video game, an MMO, with some other games as well. I think there are other Warcraft games produced by Blizzard, but that's not important right now. This was initially released by Upper Deck Entertainment. If you guys know what that is, then you know where this might be going. It first came out in 2006. Late 2006, October, I want to say, but don't quote me on that because I'm usually wrong when it comes to dates. So the first thing to note is that this is a hero-based game, much like Mega Man or Flesh and Blood, where you take on this role of a specific character in the game and you fight against your opponent. It's unique because it's also kind of an adventure game. You see, while there is the standard 1v1 gameplay that a lot of card games have, and have had both before and since, there's also the opportunity for multiple players to join together to take on dungeons and fight bosses in a raid, like it's a video game or something crazy. And there's a lot of cool stuff that have been introduced to the Warcraft TCG over its lifespan. Not just raids, but other things as well. But let's go over the basics quick. Players have access to their hero cards. They also have access to ability cards, which function like sorceries. There are allies, which function like magic's creatures. There are weapon and item cards, and these can all be used to, well, empower yourself and make your board state more sustainable. Or, of course, to send all this stuff at your opponent to try to whittle them down, kill their allies, and ultimately reduce their health to zero. And this game at first does kind of look like it plays similar to Magic. There are differences. There's no land cards. Instead, the cards in your hand can all be used to act as resources, which is, something that some other card games have done. There's also some minor differences that I think in the grand scheme of things do make this game play radically different from Magic in the long term. Combat appears similar to Magic, but instead of taking all of your creatures and swinging them all at once, instead you declare the targets for your allies, because it does matter. Because the other big difference when it comes to combat is damage. Damage is sustained in between turns in this game. You see, in Magic the Gathering, damage goes away at the end of the turn, so as long as your creature survived combat, you have nothing to worry about. But in World of Warcraft, damage is persistent, which means every combat you partake in is a risk, and it has you wondering whether or not your creatures, your allies, can survive another round. Is this battle you're engaging with worth the risk? There are other differences too, like the quest cards. Quest cards need you to do a specific action or a set of actions in order to turn them in for a reward, whether it's drawing a card, getting a specific bonus, whatever have you. There's a lot of different quest cards. There's also location cards, which act similar to quest cards, except that they stick around. And then there's another card type, a very specific kind of card type. In fact, it's the one you're probably most expecting me to talk about. The loot cards. That's right, this game has loot cards. These are alternate versions of other cards in the game. There's a regular version and a loot card version. And these are actual loot cards. They have scratch-off codes. You can get on most of them. I think it's a 4-part code. And these are pretty impressive, pretty unique, because you can take those codes from these cards and redeem them online for in-game rewards in the World of Warcraft MMO. And that is the reason that this game still has a very noteworthy secondary market, because these scratch-off codes still work. This game is 20 years old. World of Warcraft is old. This card game is 20 years old, and these code cards still work. This is an out-of-print card game. There's no reason for these to still work, but they do. And some of the rewards for these code cards are very desirable in the game, which results in some of these cards being very valuable, some over $100. In fact, of course, there's the infamous one, Spectral Tiger, which there was a sale for an unredeemed copy with the code still intact for $8,000 just a few weeks ago, which for an out-of-print card game to have one of its cards go for that kind of price tag, that's actually pretty impressive. And it just goes to show you just how much demand there really is for, at the very least, the most interesting card mechanic that I've seen in many TCGs. There's not a lot like it out there. There's the Neopets Battle Dome card game, which also by Upper Deck also uses code cards, the Grundo Warehouse things. Should probably keep an eye out for those in the future. But a side effect of these code cards existing and the demand for them is that the box prices for World of Warcraft, at least for the sets that have the more desirable code cards in them, those are quite desirable. Some of those boxes are very expensive, which does have the effect of actually completing a full set of any given WoW set. A hassle. It is a pain to get a hold of them. It's always been a bit of a problem. I remember even 10 years ago that actually completing a full WoW set was a bit of a pain for some people. Now, overall, my opinion on this game is kind of neutral. I'm not overall a fan. I have played it a few times. In fact, once not that long ago, I have a buddy who's a big fan of it, and he has some decks. I'm not a fan, but I do have a small collection of it just because there are some positives to this game that I haven't mentioned in the gameplay mechanic, and that is, it does have some really cool art, including a bunch of artists. You know, it's got Rebecca Guay has done art for this game. RK Post has done art for this game. Therese Nielsen has done art for this game, although I don't have any cards of hers. I should probably get on that at some point. It has really nice fantasy art, which makes it cool, not just as a card game you can play, but as an art piece you can collect. And if you're a World of Warcraft fan, that triples up, because now you're a fan of the IP, you're a fan of the art, you're a fan of the gameplay. It all comes out to being really awesome. So there's a lot going for it, not just with the code cards, but with all the other aspects of the game itself. And it's got some really cool side products. Like I mentioned, there's this set called Arena Grand Melee. It was a small specialty set with its own rules, and it has one of my favorite cards ever printed in any TCG ever. This is called Reversal of Fate. If you can't read it, because this camera is not the greatest, this says, players can't concede this turn. If a player would lose the game this turn, he wins instead. That is one of the wildest rules I've ever read on any card in any card game ever. And I just had to share that with you guys, because that is absolutely wild in my opinion. I can't believe Upper Deck thought to print that. Although it might not have been Upper Deck to print that, now that I think about it, because yeah, this wasn't always an Upper Deck TCG. You guys might be aware that Upper Deck has had some licensing issues when it comes to card games. They lost the Yu-Gi-Oh license for some reasons. We won't talk about that today, but in 2008, I believe, they lost the rights to the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. Well, in 2010, I think, Upper Deck lost the license to the World of Warcraft card game. I don't know why. That's certainly something you guys are more than welcome to go look up yourselves. But the fact of the matter is, Cryptozoic kept the game going after this point, and they had several sets lined up, and they did release several sets for the game, at least for a few years, because, well, it is a dead card game. So what happened? Well, in 2013, the game was canceled. No big fanfare about it. It was just done so. Uh, I've heard a bunch of different stories over the years as to why, failing player numbers, cost of production, all that jazz. But the one that always sticks with me the most is the fact that only about a year after this game was officially canceled, the digital card game for World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, released. And that's an in house card game. Purely digital, so no printing costs. WoW controls the Blizzard, I should say, controls the release of that. So it's all in house, all under Blizzard control. And of course, the conspiracy theory I heard was that they just mandated that this game die to keep Hearthstone, give Hearthstone the best first leg it could get. And, you know, to Hearthstone's credit, it still is going to this day. In fact, it was like the premier digital card game, from what I understand. Magic Arena was heavily inspired by it. Let's just say that. But without all conspiracy theories or anything like that, I will say it was a pretty fun card game for all intents and purposes that has some genuine collectability to it, some really good art to it, and a lot of nostalgia, because there are a lot of World of Warcraft fans who do enjoy this one quite a lot, and that goes to show that even dedicated fan bases, even popularity, even rampant popularity, can't necessarily keep a game going forever. World of Warcraft at one point was one of the biggest things in America. There was a period of time where I even played the game, not because I thought it was amazing or anything, but because a bunch of my friends were playing it. So they were like, hey, Uncle Frank, you have got to try this. You got to get an account and all that jazz. And I remember when World of Warcraft came on these little demo discs. I don't have any of those lying around. I should get one. But yeah, the WoW TCG, it took off like a storm. And it still has some relevance today. Like I said, it still has reasons for people to want to pick up the cards and collect them and stuff. But it did die. And it just goes to show that popularity, even surging popularity, isn't enough to keep a card game around forever. And I think that's important to remember as we enter into this age of TCGs based off of popular IPs, where popular IP is the biggest reason people give for why it's going to be successful. Sure, One Piece is booming. The Naruto card game might take off. The Cyberpunk card game might do amazing. But will they last forever? World of Warcraft was a pretty popular TCG based on an extremely popular brand, and it didn't last forever. Now, why it didn't last forever is up to some debate, but the fact of the matter is, it's not here anymore, and I just want you guys to remember that. All right? Anyway, that's all I got for you kiddos today. As always, if you liked what you heard, if you disagreed with anything I've said, let me know in the comments section below. I always like to hear you guys' thoughts. As always, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Check out the links below to eBay, TCG Player, Discord, and Patreon. I forgot to mention, I do sell World of Warcraft. I buy and sell it on TCG Player. A few of the sets are still available on the site. And from time to time, it does get some sales. So that's something I forgot to mention. I do still sell it because it does sell. Now that's all I got. Talk to you guys later. Ciao.